Now, before we begin, I'd like to give a fair warning. There are a number of names and places that are listed in this case, which are pretty hard to pronounce for me, so please bear with me. If I get a name or word or place name wrong, please forgive me in advance. Thank you. For most people, money is everything. We work to earn it and we pay with it to live. Rent, bills, gas, groceries. Quite quickly, your cash can deplete after your paycheck comes in that week. And with how things are going on at the moment in the world, some of that cash is getting harder to come by. Some people get pensions or benefits. Some people, unfortunately, tend to tread onto the wrong side of the law to get bread. Robbery is a common occurrence of this, done by those desperate to survive with nothing else to fall back on. Identity theft is also a common practice done by criminals. But have you ever tried insurance fraud? One man from India tried it. Was it easy? Probably not. But what he left behind has been a 40+ year investigation that has baffled top Indian detectives, morticians, media, and even Interpol. Today, I want to talk about an individual who, although you may have never even heard of him, is probably one of the most sought after men within the past 50 years, rivaling that of people like the Zodiac Killer. I found out about this case by looking through Instagram Reels one day, and ever since I saw like a slide of this guy's face, I've been interested in this case, and that was about a week ago. And what you might find is pretty interesting, so take a seat, pull up a stump, play this video in the background if you'd like, because today we're going to have a look at the case of India's most wanted man. Sukumara Kurup was born as P.K. Gopalakrishna on the 25th of May 1946 to Malaysian parents in the state of Kerala in India. There's little detail to Kurup's early life aside from being brought up in a wealthy family, which had strong political connections on local, state, and even federal levels. He was noted to be prone to severe cardiorespiratory issues, according to medical documents found. After finishing school, he joined the Indian Air Force as an officer. While on placement in Pune, Kurup fell in love with a nurse named Sarasama. The couple got married in a temple in Matunga in Mumbai without the knowledge or permission of Kurup's family. Sarasama's family came out of poverty after her marriage to Kurup, which called the loyalty of Sarasama's sister's husband, Bhaskara Pillai, who is relevant for later on. It becomes quite apparent that from the moment he left the Air Force, Kurup had an interest in attempting misdeeds. He had a short stint within the Indian Army Medical Corps, and it was there where he first attempted to fake his death. Since the option of voluntary resignation would have taken a very long time to process and approve, without guarantee as well, he decided to desert the corps. And thanks to his wealthy backing, he bribed the reporting officer sent to track him down to write an official report that Gopalakrishna had died. He had later applied for a passport in the name of Sukumara Kurup and fled for the Gulf. From there, the timeline gets a little bit muddled. We do know that he lived in the Gulf, particularly in Abu Dhabi, where he became an executive in a marine petroleum company. We also know that during his time in Abu Dhabi, he had taken out an insurance policy worth 3,001,616 dirham, which is about $83,000 in US money in today's economy. He also became acquainted with a man named Shahu, who was also involved with the Abu Dhabi-based company. Sukumara had read of and became inspired by a case of insurance fraud committed in Germany, in which the perpetrator faked his death and his quote-unquote nominee collected the money. Sukumara returned to India on leave from Abu Dhabi on January 6, 1984. He returned with a plan. Accompanied with Shahu, he rekindled with Pillai. The three, along with Kurup's family's longtime driver named Ponapan, hatched a plan. They were going to find a body, from anywhere they could and claim it as the body of Kurup. From there, Kurup could claim the money, with each man taking a cut. The original plan was to get a body from the Alappuzha Medical College through a relative, then tried grave robbing, both yielding no result. So without much other option, it was decided to kidnap a lookalike, murder them, and then pass the body off as Kurup's, which somehow all men involved were very optimistic about. The four had met at the Kalpakavadi restaurant on January 21st, 1984 to fine-tune their plans. Around midnight on January 21st, 1984, KJ Chako, aged 30, was sipping tea outside Hari Talkies in Alappuzha. A film representative, Chako was at the talkies, or cinema in modern terms, to deliver movie reels. A witness named K. Srikumar, who accompanied Chako on the night, states, "I was with Chako till midnight. We both had tea after the second show. I had asked him to stay back and leave in the morning, but he had promised to take his pregnant wife to the church feast. After the tea, I bid him goodbye and went inside the theatre. I never saw him again." After Srikumar left, Chako stood there alone, waiting for any bus that would take him home. Soon, a black ambassador pulled over and offered him a lift. A car had driven past him twice that night, but he had not noticed it, and this ambassador was that same exact car. In the car were three men, Ponapan, Pillai, and Shahu. Once in the car, Chako was offered alcohol twice by Pillai, to which Chako refused both times. However, Pillai's tone became menacing, threatening Chako and forcing him to drink the alcohol out of fear. Once he was pressured and consumed it, Chako immediately fell unconscious, leading to both Pillai and Shahu choking Chako to death with a towel. They would transport the body to a house owned by Pillai, where they met with Kurup. Chako was stripped of everything: clothes, watch, wedding ring, and then was dressed in Kurup's clothes. Probably the most sinister thing, however, was when they were loading him into the car, they decided to char the face of Chako to the point of him being unrecognizable, which on paper sounds pretty violent, but at the same time you gotta think, well, you can match a face with the face of the real person. At least if you leave some similar facial features like cheekbones and forehead size, then it could be still somewhat believable. The two cars involved, with the license plates KLQ7831 and KLY5959, then headed to nearby Kolakadavu, a scenic village on the banks of the Achinkovil River. The site was chosen for the accident. It was a paddy field bordering the river, which, in a pretty sad turn of events, is now known as the Chako Padam, or the Chako Field. At the site, the body was transferred to the driver's seat of KLQ7831 and doused with 10 litres of petrol. The car was then pushed down into the field and set afire. Some fuel was spilt when they were dousing the car in petrol. The fire had jumped from the car to the spilt fuel, which burnt Pillai's arms. The four jumped into an adjacent field to douse the flames and then fled, leaving behind their gloves and a rubber sandal. The next morning, January 22nd, 1984, this police department received a call reporting the burning car. Deputy Superintendent M. Haridas and his team reached the scene at around 5 a.m. Little did they know that what they found would be shocking. The car was completely burnt and there was a charred body behind the wheel. Local residents in the crowd told us that the car belonged to an NRI named Sukumara Kurup. Once arriving, police found the gloves, a matchbox, and also a petrol can at the location. The gloves had burn marks and a few hairs stuck to it. They also found footprints fleeing the scene. Right from the get-go, Haridas became suspicious about the circumstances of the incident. According to Haridas, 2 policemen were sent to inform the family of Kurup. Upon return, however, they noted a few unusual things. The family's reaction to the death was quite passive, instead of shocked, skeptical, or mournful. They learned that Kurup would frequently stay at Pelei's house every time he returned from the Gulf. Kurup was essentially ghosted by his family, primarily due to the disapproval of his marriage with a member of a poorer family, and they found Pelei's wife cooking chicken curry, something unthinkable in a traditional Hindu household in Kerala, immediately after the death of a relative. With this information uncovered, Haridas requested a post-mortem to be performed on the body, with the name of the body being named as a man said to be Sukumar Kurup. This piqued the curiosity of police surgeon Dr. B. Umadathan, who did the post-mortem. His inquest confirmed that the man was murdered and set on fire because there were no traces of charcoal or ash in his respiratory tract. The presence of liquor and ethyl alcohol in the digestive tract added to the mystery. Also, no ring or watch was recovered from the body during the post-mortem, unusual for a wealthy person such as Kurup during that time. Haridas then called Pelei for an inquiry. Pelei told Haridas that Kurup had many enemies in the Gulf and that one of them might have killed him. During his police station visit, Pelei was dressed in a full-sleeved shirt, which was unusual in Kerala at the time. Curious, Haridas asked Pelei to roll up his sleeves, revealing burns not older than 24 hours on his elbow. On further examination, the police found burn marks on his right leg. His eyebrows too had been singed. Pelei tried to use the excuse that Kurup promised Pelei a job in Abu Dhabi but did not follow up on his promise, resulting in Pelei murdering him. What? But this wasn't convincing enough anyway. Let's go back to Srikumar, who was with Charco the night before. He lodged a missing person complaint on the 27th of January 1984, meeting Haridas and detailing his experience. Srikumar claimed that he became concerned when Charco did not return to the cinema and visited his house. Charco's family had not felt anything unusual, as Charco used to travel extensively as part of his job and used to stay away for days. On February 1st, the body was exhumed for another post-mortem. Using a technique called superimposition, it was confirmed that the body belonged to Charco. That day, the Sukumar Kurup murder case was officially renamed the Charco murder case. More clues unraveled as time went on. This included a major revelation that Kurup owned both vehicles involved with the murder. 5959 was an older car. Not only that, but the older car was commonly used as a taxi, found out to be driven by Ponapan. Police teams were dispatched to find Shahu, Ponapan and Kurup. Haridas's team went to Trivandrum International Airport and sorted through thousands of embarkation cards for Shahu's details. They found that Kurup had filled in Shahu's card as the latter turned out to be illiterate. Shahu was found in Chavavak, this place, packing his bags to leave for the Gulf by Kochi. Ponapan too was arrested soon after. Ponapan claimed that he accidentally hit and killed a person whilst on call and thus decided to burn the body. What? After another round of questioning, Pelei finally confessed the sequence of events to police. Everything from Kurup's return from Abu Dhabi to fleeing the scene of the murder. Pelei and Ponapan were charged with murder, criminal conspiracy and destruction of evidence. Shahu was initially charged but was later made an approver and was released. The wife of Pelei and Sarasama were accused, but this was also dismissed. But one question remained. What happened to Kurup? During the manhunt to find the three other men, Kurup was the last one that had yet to be found. Ponapan claimed that he dropped off Kurup at Aluva, which would explain Ponapan being missing for a short period of time, as Aluva is more than 70 kilometers away from Alappuzha and roughly 120 kilometers from this place. Further questioning allowed the investigators to trace Kurup's movements to the Alanka Lodge in Aluva. The owner was shown a photograph of Kurup and was questioned, to which he revealed that Kurup had just left, not in the past few hours, but 3 days ago. Kurup had a 72-hour head start ahead of authorities, and at this point, little option was available in terms of finding out where he would go next. According to police records, Kurup first went from Aluva to Chennai, and then to Bhutan, and later to the Andamans. From there, he went to Bhopal. Police did reach all these spots, only to find that he had slipped through time and time again. To this day, no one knows the current residence or whereabouts of Sukumara Kurup. Properties of the Kurup family have now since been repossessed by the government after he was declared a fugitive by police. According to a now retired superintendent named George Joseph, police would get thousands of telegrams every day from different parts of India reporting that they have found Kurup, although many of these were either misleading, incorrect, or impersonators looking to bank on the high-profile case at the time. Chako's wife, Senthama, who was 6 months pregnant at the time of her husband's death, has pardoned Chako's killers. Quote, "We do not know whether he is alive or dead. However, we forgive Kurup and the others involved," she says. Chako's son, Jithan, unlike his mother, has refused to forgive Kurup and has constantly stated that he wants him arrested. Bhaskara Pillai is still living in Puliyor in the Alappuzha district with his son and family. Ponapan committed unaliving soon after serving his jail term. Shahu went back to the Gulf and is still working there. While not much is known about what happened to Pillai's wife, it is known that Sarasama lost her job as a nurse in Abu Dhabi and was ostracized by the community there. She now lives a secluded life in Puliyor. And that is the case of Sukumara Kurup, which overall is a pretty interesting case. A man tried desperately to repay his debts, killed a man to get the money, and by doing so, got away with it, pretty much. In fact, I'm pretty sure Interpol still has an open file on Kurup. Now, since the murder took place and the other events that followed, 2 movies have been made. However, the one that all the news sources and all the YouTubers and other social media comments and discussions have mentioned is the 2021 Kurup movie, a biopic which is loosely based on the events of the real case. It features some characters in there that are somewhat close to real people's names and likeness mentioned in the case. As much as I want to say that there were a lot of people who idolized and took inspiration for other crimes based on the Sukumara Kurup case, you gotta remember at the end of the day, although the mugshots of Kurup himself look quite handsome, it's important to note that this was a man who essentially stole money, killed a man to get it, and has since left a wife heartbroken for 40 years. Not only that, but the son, who wasn't even born at the time, has not forgiven this man for what he did to his father. Hell, the same son in question never even got to meet his father. But regardless, that is pretty much it for the Sukumara Kurup case, at least for what I found. Some news sources were pretty good with information, some were a bit incomprehensible, mainly just due to the language barrier. A lot of the information depended on whether or not it was translated well to English. So again, if I'm wrong in some instances, I do apologize. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Scare Study series. I do enjoy researching for these videos and talking about them, making scripts for them. It's just the editing process that takes a bit of time and can be a bit challenging. Otherwise, I hope you've been great, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.